Hi, welcome to Lost in Composition. My name is Paul. I'm sitting down with artist Katie Metz today in her studio, who's let us use her studio for this. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So, when I think of Katie Metz, I think of the razor blade artist. We discussed this coming in, and I know that you're kind of getting away from razor blades, but could you tell us a little bit about the razor blade artist and how Paul came up with that title for you?
Well, that's actually a title I've kind of made for myself years back when the razor blade was one of my main tools that I used on my cityscapes. I used it to make marks and all of that stuff, and I used it so much. I actually have a bowl of razor blades sitting over there that I'm not using so much anymore, but yes, I have been known as the razor blade painter, probably because of that. I would use them a lot in my work to create light and line and all of that stuff, which created my style.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we can just call you the razor blade queen.
You can.
There you go. There you go.
I'm not using as much anymore, but you can.
Okay, cool. Okay, so you came of age in Boulder, Colorado, correct?
Yes.
And you can tell us a little bit about that.
I was born in Boulder, raised on a 10-acre farm outside of Boulder in a town called Louisville. It was a non-working farm, so we didn't really have the farm animals other than some chickens, maybe some ducks. I have 3 sisters and a brother.
Okay.
And I just growing up in that environment and all that land to run around in and all those old barns and silo, and we had a big trampoline, and my mom was actually really good at art, so there was all kinds of art all over the house.
That's cool.
And prints of things. So
that sounds like
I don't know if that answered your question, but
kind of. Yeah, it did. And that sounds like a great way to grow up. To be honest,
it really was.
Yeah, cool. Are any of your siblings artists?
Not visually. Actually, no. My brother is a visual artist, not as a career. He does surveying, but he is very good at visual art in a different way than I am. But he enjoys it, and he does really nice drawings and paintings.
Very cool.
My sister's a musician. She does all the things: sing, piano, trumpet, theater.
That's very cool.
And then the other 2, one's really into sports and CrossFit. She has a gym, and the other one, she's into like sound and video, and
So there's definitely arts in the family.
I think it's all art in some way.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Yeah.
So you said that you've always been an artist. Now, I find that interesting because not all artists state that. Can you tell us
Surprises me.
Yeah, can you elaborate on what you mean by you've been an artist your whole life?
Just knowing as a kid, just because it's obviously not really little kid, but in grade school, when we would have to do art classes and drawing or whatever, I do remember just thinking way back. I don't remember if it was 3rd, 4th grade. It was like 3rd grade. I drew this picture of a tiger, and we had to show it around in the circle. And I remember holding it up, and everybody went, "Wow."
That's cool.
And I remember that feeling that I got from that wow.
Okay.
And I think I carried that. I liked that. Not only did I like drawing this thing, but I liked the feeling of the response.
Okay.
That everybody could relate to what I was feeling with that.
Yeah. That makes perfect sense.
I kept doing art classes, and my mom would bring me to different things, extracurricular activities, music and sports and different things, which never worked for me. And then she took me to a drawing class at the YMCA.
Okay, cool.
I loved it. I drew a picture of a hand. I remember that first day. And my dad came to pick me up, and I showed him, and he was like, wow, that's amazing. I said, I know.
That's
so I was
cool.
hooked. I was hooked.
Very
Just
cool.
wanted to keep drawing.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Mm-hmm.
It's really cool that you have a family that was also very supportive of you in the arts.
Oh yeah, they were.
Yeah. So how old were you when you made Sue the turtle, and do you still have her?
I do. She's over there.
Cool.
Yeah,
We'll have
she's
to
like
take a look.
one piece of art. I have several other things that I've saved over the years from when I was young. I just made her at a pottery class, and I actually did a whole cartoon series of her, comic strip. Her name was Sue, and then there was another character that went along with that.
Cool. When did you do that?
I was into comics as well.
Cool. Yeah.
I don't, just younger years. I mean, I can't remember the age, but under 10.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
That's
before
cool.
teen years.
Okay, very cool. That's cool
Yeah.
that you did a comic strip too.
I got into doing a lot of comics over the years.
Yeah, as I've been interviewing artists, I'm amazed at how many were into comics or still are into comics. It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know you went to graphic design school. Do you have any formal training in the arts outside of design school?
My own formal training. I didn't go to any art college.
Yeah.
Nothing like that. I thought about it, but never made it to there. I just, after high school, started working, and I chose to work in art stores and things that involved anything art, framing, art supplies, and from there I would meet people that were established or, far more advanced than me in their career as an artist.
Yeah.
And I would ask them questions. I'd go sit at their studios. I'd learn a lot from them. And they were all different types of artists, illustrators, painters, some abstract. And there was also a drawing group in Boulder that as an adult I would attend every week. And I met a lot of people there too. So I think through the years of my 20s and 30s, all of that was sort of like my art school. I learned a lot.
Yeah. No.
Got a lot out of that.
Oh, it makes perfect sense. And I have such deep admiration for people who can go out and do what they want to do on their own without formal training. I think that I have the deepest respect for that. So.
Me too.
Yeah, and I love your work. Absolutely love your work. So, tell us a little bit about the frame shop, about working in the frame shop, because I've seen that as a common thread as I interview artists too, that a lot of artists have worked in frame shops early on.
It's a good skill to have.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember how I started there. Oh, there was an ad when we used to have ads in the paper.
Oh, yeah.
Frame shop
Way back in the
Boulder.
day.
And the owner, he was an independent, he owned it, and he had me come in and we did the interview, and we became friends as well. So I worked for him, I want to say about 5 years, maybe 6.
Oh, wow.
In my 20s. So yeah, it was good to learn that skill because of all the different things that I needed to frame or wanted to frame to show down the road. Became very useful to me. I saved some money because I knew how to do it myself.
And you also did figure drawing classes there?
So there was another figure drawing class near Boulder. It was in Longmont, Colorado. And that was at the art supply store that I worked at.
Okay, that was at the art supply store. Okay.
So the framing I did, and then I moved, and then I started working in an art supply store, which also did framing, and I did a little bit there, but yeah, the other thing with the framing is lots of artists would come in and you'd meet a lot of different artists. So
and you
it's
were
just a good connection for artists in general. We got to stick together.
Yeah.
We learn from each other.
Yep, you were able to network with them, and very cool.
Yep.
Very cool. So early in your career, you focused on landscapes and still lives and figurative paintings. Is that correct?
More so figurative drawing. I didn't really get into figurative painting. I did a little painting with the figure, but more so practicing the drawing, charcoal, pencil,
Okay.
to study the figure and lines and shadows and all that stuff that you learn from a live figure.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So did you start using razor blades and branching out before you moved to Seattle, or was that after?
No, the razor blade thing came when I moved to Seattle a couple years after. I actually was going to continue my traditional classical figure drawing, landscape, plein air painting stuff in Seattle, but something about being in the city overwhelmed me in a good way. But it sort of like grabbed my attention to another direction, and I didn't know what to do with it. I also needed to work to just get settled, and that just took time. And I, meeting new people, a whole new routine of just living in a city after living in a place where I could leave my door unlocked and go. And I'd have a car right there. It's just so different than living in a rural area.
Yeah, a lot more different.
So
I grew up in a very rural area.
So it's
yes,
just a whole different thing.
It's a whole different world.
Took a while to get used to, but I loved it. When I first moved, I was like, wow, I love this.
Me too. I love the city life.
Everything was captured.
Yeah, so that was in 2005 when you moved to Seattle?
Yeah, 2005, yeah.
And was that more of a strategic thought out, I am moving to Seattle, or was it, I just need to do this thing?
A little bit strategic. I had thought about moving to the Pacific Northwest for a long time when I was in high school, I guess, is kind of where that started. More so Oregon. I don't know why. I just had this thought, like, I need to go up there. And then I did. I came up a few times before I moved, and I just loved the Pacific Northwest and thought I just want to move here someday. And when I was working in the art supply store, I think it was in my mid-30s then, and I just thought it's time for a change. I was living in a small town. I just needed to change. Like, I need to do something different now, So, basically I packed up my van. I had a van at the time, and I drove up here.
Very cool.
And I found a little place, and just moved in and started. It was very, like, let's see what happens. Yeah. I did have some hookups and some connections, which helped, but there was a lot of, like, unknown.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm a native to the Pacific Northwest, and when you said it's beautiful, when you told me that it's beautiful here, it's like, yes, it is.
It just is.
Yes, I've done a lot of traveling. If you ever want to come see it to Seattle or the Pacific Northwest, do. It's beautiful. It's unlike any other place.
Yeah, it is nice.
And after you moved here, you kind of revamped your career path. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, unexpectedly, not planned out that way, but I didn't really have a career as an artist at that point. It was more of, I feel more like I was a practicing emerging artist, not really knowing what I was going to do with what I was learning. I was always headed more towards the illustration, all of that, but by that time, that 2005, after doing some graphic design stuff and learning the computer and how all that was changing so fast, my interest I just wasn't feeling it anymore. And I wanted to start bringing out what was here instead of just like trying to draw something accurately. Because I knew I'd never get there because I'd give up. I don't want to draw accurately, and I admire artists that can and do realism. I think it's great, but I don't think it's for me, and I realized that. And I think being in the city, there was so much, and it almost felt like an abstract painting living in the city. and I wanted to sort of bring that to life and portray that somehow.
Mm-hmm.
I don't actually think I've done it yet. I'm
Really?
still working towards it, and maybe that's one reason why I keep painting cityscapes is I haven't gotten there yet.
Well,
but there's beauty in this process, I think, still. Yeah. But for me personally, I might be veering off from your initial question.
No,
Sorry.
that's good. I really like that, and I really like how you're talking about the cityscapes and kind of focusing on that, because being in the city is near and dear to me, and I love it. And when I look at your works, this piece is in progress. It's not finished.
It's very much of a start.
Yeah.
It's totally going to be different by the time it's over.
Yeah, and after you finish it, send me a picture and I'll put it up on the site.
All right.
So, where was I going? Okay, I was going to say that when I am in the city, what I love about your work and what I love about living in the city is that when I look at your work, it reminds me of the hustle and the bustle in the city that I kind of love. But there's a peace to it too, and it's like that's just the place that I love to be, where everybody is trying to live their best life, and it's not, well, you'll see on the news about all the murders and everything else. It's just most people are trying to hustle and bustle and live their best life, and that to me is the takeaway when I look at your art, when I look at your cityscapes. So.
I love that.
Cool.
Yeah, everybody has sort of a different feeling about it, but that's nice to know.
Cool. So you also have the material world listed on your website. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Are you still doing those? I haven't seen them in a long time.
No, I'm not doing them now. I might revisit that down the road. I did them for a while, and then I sort of lost interest because I wasn't sure where I was going with those. So I just stopped, and it's one of those things where I forgot about it and then continued on with, I think I might have had a show I had to do of cityscapes, so I just got refocused on that. But I feel like I might revisit that subject. There's so many other subjects. I have a whole box of things I want to do, and it's partly procrastination and part scared and part I know how to do what I can live on. So it's sort of like this balance. But yes, I think I might get back to those. I feel like they're great how they are, but I feel like I can keep going, and I don't like the word improving, but changing.
Or elevate.
Elevate, yes.
There you go.
Elevate them.
Yeah, no, I love them. I think they're great.
Thank you.
But we did buy one of your city piecescapes. We only have one by you. That may change someday, but it was actually the only piece that I bought as a gift for my husband.
Yeah.
And we walked in, and he was just enamored. He was blown away with it. He's like, I love this piece. He's like, you can't buy it. I love this piece. You can't buy it. And his birthday was coming up, so it was his birthday present.
Oh, I love that.
It was really cool.
That is so cool. I know the piece you bought, and I loved painting that one.
Yeah, and
all the cars and.
And it's actually one of 2 or 3 pieces that we have where the placement is perfect and it's not going anywhere else, and it's above the bed in the bedroom, and it just looks perfect there.
It's funny you hang that above the bed because it's so
but to me,
which I think
not.
is really cool because it's like such a difference.
To me it's not, and I've talked about this in another interview that I did with a different artist, and so I'll have to put those both up there. Joseph Steininger, I did an interview with him. I don't know if you know him, but I talked about how his 2 pieces bookend it. We have 2 small pieces by him.
Oh, I think I saw a picture of that at one point.
Yeah, so I'll have to put a picture up.
Maybe you sent that to me a while. Yes. Yeah, that would be cool.
I love the placement of that piece so much.
Yeah.
So throughout the pandemic, I watched you use new colors, environmental factors like sunsets and birds and stuff. What inspired that, and are you continuing it? Because I'm not seeing any of those anymore.
Oh, it's one of those things where I was in a phase. I think I needed to step away from the concrete of city, even though I don't, it's like no more cars and thinking about how I want to make those and all the which is fine. I just needed a break, I guess. And during COVID, when everything was closed, we had where I used to live, there was a rooftop deck where you could just see all of the city above, which was a view I wasn't really used to, but I was up there a lot. We would barbecue up there and hang out.
Yeah.
And just sit up there and talk and play music. And I think I just took that memory. I don't live there anymore and needed to paint skies, I guess.
Okay.
Because there was a lot of sky up there. It was big sky because you don't get big sky in the city, but up there I did.
Yeah.
So I think
it was kind of dark
combining
times for everyone.
Yeah,
So.
I think I needed to brighten up a little. Yeah. So it was fun to paint, and I think that it just after I did I did a handful of them. I just stepped away and said, I'm done.
Cool.
It's an artist thing,
Well, yeah, no, totally. And, I do like the colors that you were using. And
they were definitely getting brighter.
Yeah, and I think that may have led to this. I don't know if this is getting darker or not.
Probably will. I have a problem with that.
Okay.
But I'm working on, changing that.
Do what you do because I love what you do.
No, I know, but I do feel like I start getting darker and darker. I don't know where that came from. It might have been some of my influences growing up, but I don't know. Color has actually been a little bit hard for me. Maybe that's because I didn't get formal training for it, or maybe even if I did, it might still be hard for me. I don't know why.
I think the dark works in your pictures and in your paintings and your work. Period.
Well, thank you.
I think it just works. So
I'm glad you feel that way.
So I've noticed you evolving in the way that you create your work over the last couple of years specifically. Can you elaborate on that?
Just I don't know if it's needed, but I need to keep going and trying new things. I feel like I kind of got stuck in the same. And I also realized that I was getting really illustrative and using those razor blades to make all these lines. And I think I made some really beautiful paintings with those. But I personally was getting, I'm touching the microphone, sorry.
No, that's fine. Lots of people do that.
Sorry for that noise. I was personally feeling like I wanted to loosen up, and I really wanted to make the paint be like speak instead of doing what I was doing. And it's a little bit, I was a little bit hesitant to start changing. Just as a gallery artist, collectors and whatever, over the years, people get to know the work the way you do it. And if you change it, I don't know if it causes a problem, but it's just.
It's like, that's something different.
Wait, is that Katie Metz? I have to kind of get away from that and do what my heart's telling me that I want to do.
Yeah.
And that's the place I'm in right now. I'm kind of in a transition because I haven't worked with all this texture before. I stopped using so much with the paintbrush, and I have a basket full of tools there, brayers and squeegees and all kinds of things that I know many artists use. It's, mark making. And I'm just personally enjoying that more. And I feel like it's actually working a little, I don't want to say better, but differently with the city, the way I'm feeling it.
Cool. Very cool. Time will tell.
Yes.
So were there any, as you grew up and came of age, were there any different artists that had an impact on you growing up?
Well, like I said earlier, our house was filled with all sorts of prints of different artists, back in the 80s, and the framed prints that we had. I mean, we still have that, but there was like Georgia O'Keeffe, Magritte, Picasso, Andrew Wyeth was a big one for me.
I love his work.
I know. And I think, as I said earlier, I feel like when I'm painting so dark, that the influence of, he's not really so dark, but he's very neutral in his color palette and very earthy.
Uh-huh.
And I think there's a part of me that always wanted to stay earthy in my work for some reason.
Yeah.
I'm kind of getting out of that. But Andrew Wyeth is a big one. Just
Okay.
the feeling of, you know,
Yeah,
anyone that
you
knows
can
him,
just-
you
yeah,
know.
yeah.
I'm lost of
Okay,
words. But
we kind of rat-holed on him, so...
well, there's also another one, Robert Bateman. He's famous. He's a famous wildlife painter, which I'm not. I've actually known some wildlife painters in my life, and I respect that work as well. But what I liked about him, the same with Andrew Wyeth, is how they would be very illustrative, but then they would have this painterliness in their illustration that made it not be so accurate. I don't know if I explained that right.
No, you totally
But
did, and I love
appreciated
that because Andrew Wyeth has one of, I'd have to say it's in the top 3 of my favorite paintings of all time, and it's The Drifter. And because we focused on him and Robert Bateman, I will put 2 images down below on the blog of those people.
Do you know who Robert Bateman is?
No, I don't.
Oh,
but
you can look him up.
I mind fart when it
He's
comes
like
to
one
names.
of the, me too.
So, yeah.
Me too. I can like remember the art, but then I'm like, oh.
Yeah, so, but I will definitely put a piece of, and maybe I'll let you select that one.
Yeah, I will. I can
Cool.
do that.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so that's awesome. So do you think being a female has made your success more difficult?
No. I mean, when you ask that, I wonder, I don't really wonder. Trying to think. The only thing that I remember about that, and I don't know if it made it difficult, it just made me be aware, is I had this friend who was a illustrator and was sort of a mentor to me. And we were drawing, and he would look at my drawings and he'd say, "You draw like a woman." But he wasn't being mean.
Yeah.
I said, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Women just tend to get more curvy in their drawing and less like this."
Okay.
That wasn't a problem for me, and I didn't take it offensively, but I remembered it.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
No, that's fair. That's
But no, I don't feel as an artist in my career it's been an issue.
I love that because being gay was never really an issue for me until it became an issue in my career. And once it happens, you know. But I'm glad that you haven't experienced that. That's really nice. It's very heartwarming for
Sorry
me.
that you did.
No. So, what have some of the highlights of your career been so far?
Oh, there's been many good highlights, and what keeps me going, I think having solo shows are they're hard, but when you do them and you're done, it's just like, it's so nice.
Very cool.
And I've had different, solo shows throughout the years. Just being able to do that has been, like I said, it keeps you going, and just having that attention. Maybe that initial tiger drawing is that attention of like, look at all my work hanging.
Yeah.
That's a highlight. Just being published in different magazines and people wanting my work. I just love that.
That's very cool.
And also just listening to people's feelings and what they get out of my work, and when they write to me or show me where it's hanging, it makes me happy.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And I love that you said that you told me that your first, how you got into a commercial gallery, I may be wrong here, but was because you had your piece hung in a coffee shop. Is that correct?
I did, you know how coffee shops hang art and do little shows for artists, and when I first moved here and I wasn't doing much, I was still creating things, but they weren't anything like I was doing, and it wasn't even the cityscapes, it was just collages and whatnot, little things.
Yeah.
And I'd hang those in the coffee shop next to where I worked.
Uh-huh.
And they did really well, meaning people loved them and people bought them. And okay, I'll paint some more. So I did a show where I did my initial first cityscapes. I think that was like 2007. maybe 8, because I was 2. And I hung those in the coffee shop. I did like 20 of them, and they were all small, and but I used that razor blade was my initial like voice, I guess, at the time, and it was like, whoa, I really scribbled a lot, and I think I enjoyed that. But those sold out like in 2 weeks.
That's awesome.
And
that's got to be a wonderful feeling.
Like, wait, what's going on here? And so a gallery owner from downtown came in, and she left her business card.
Cool.
And wanted me to call, and we hooked up, and I did some commission work for her, and then that led to doing a sideshow in her gallery downtown, which led to me getting on the roster, which led to the beginning of my career as a gallery artist.
Very cool. That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
It was cool.
It's, when I walk into coffee shops, it's amazing to me when I see the work on the walls and I see sold, or I watch if it's pre-pandemic, if it was a place that I was at regularly, I'd see pieces disappear, and I'm like, oh, that's really cool. And it's nice to know that, and it's nice to hear an artist say that that's how they got their start in a commercial gallery. That is really cool.
It is, yeah.
So do you have any call-outs for specific art institutions, galleries, museums, or any specific artists?
I do, but I'm really bad with names like you.
Yep, that's
I have lots of
completely fine.
It's like I'm actually good with people's names like that I just meet for some reason. I don't know what that is, but then when you said that question, there's many artists I just admire and respect, and I just don't want to point one out and miss others. So
yeah, no, that's a tough question. For me, I would be the same.
I'm gonna just say yes. And what my influences were, even though those, but today artists I know, and I don't want to miss anyone.
No, so, it's nice to know that I'm not alone.
And I know many artists in Seattle too that I just totally respect and admire. So yeah.
Yeah, Seattle's got a great art community. It really does.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
Vastly underrated and vastly underappreciated, but it really does. So I'd like to thank you for letting us use your studio.
Well, thank you.
This has been wonderful.
This is great.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, it's been my pleasure. So for more on Katie's work, you can go to lostincomposition.com, and my mug shot is probably popped up on this video by now. And if you click on that and subscribe to my YouTube channel, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.